What's going on, everybody? Grim Repair here. Today we're going to be swapping out our vacuum booster on an 86 F350 with the 6.9 liter diesel IDI. And we're going to switch the vacuum booster out to a hydro boost. First thing we're going to do is remove the master cylinder, remove the vacuum hose up here, and then we're going to go in and under the dash and remove the 4 bolts and the pedal that are attached to the booster. These 3 nuts that we're holding the cylinder on are a 14 millimeter. And just kind of set that down out of the way. Try not to strain the brake lines. Supplies you're going to need to do this swap are a hydro boost, some 6AN line meant for power steering, these 2 power steering fitting to 6AN adapters, 2 meant for power steering 6AN 90-degree fittings, one of these master cylinder to booster push rod clearance measuring tools, this power steering hose. So I got it all back together, and then my brake lights weren't working, and after a lot of screwing around with it, I went and got a different brake switch, and this one's working. Not sure why, but it is. It seems to have a little bit more curve here on this section here than the original does. And there are links down in the description to these parts. All right, so we're gonna remove these 4 nuts that are around the brake pedal push rod. The other side of this is the booster. We get those loose and remove the clips holding the push rod to the pedal. The booster is gonna come out. They are also 14 millimeter. There's 2 more right above it. It's going to be kind of hard to get the camera in there with my hands in the way, but I'm just going to remove those. And you're going to probably need some needle nose to get this clip out. You might be able to do it with your hand. Probably hurt less with a pair of needle nose. This really isn't so bad if you have a battery powered ratchet. I'll put one down in the description if you want to pick one up. Last time I did this, I didn't have one, and it was a huge pain in the butt. Alright. Oh. Looks like that. Brake light switch and the push rod are just going to slide off, and they go on kind of like that. And there's also a little bushing plastic inside that push rod as well. Might need to move my cruise control servo. I'm gonna do that just to give myself a little more room here. It's 10 millimeter. There we go, it's out. This booster here is from a 1997 F Super Duty. And make sure we got nuts here on that side. Looks like we got them on here too, so that's good. We don't have to reuse them. And this one came with a push rod here. I guess most of them don't. I have a link down below for a push rod if that's what you need to put into a booster you bought from the parts store. Before we put this in, we're gonna measure the push rod of the old one and make sure that this one's the right length. If it's too long, we're gonna have to trim it. If it's too short, we're gonna have to get a longer one and trim it, unless we are lucky and get the right length. And to do that, we're gonna use one of these measuring tools. Actually, we're gonna measure it here on the master cylinder side. I'm just gonna slide it in there. Lock it down. And check the measurement. Looks like it's just a little bit too long. So we're gonna have to file it down, because that's just barely anything. All right, we've got it filed down to where that now clears. We're gonna go ahead and slide it in. Holes are lining up. Make sure nothing's pinched in there. Make sure you got everything routed around it the way you want it. We're gonna go in, screw these in. The Super Duty pedal, this pin here that grabs onto the booster push rod that comes out of the pedal, is mounted a little bit higher. And if we leave it where it is, it's gonna wanna be way too sensitive. So we might have to remove the pedal, grind this weld out, drill another hole, and re-weld this up a little bit higher. I'm not totally sure how we're gonna work with the cruise control shut off piece of plastic here. We might have to move that and maybe weld a piece of angle iron to the pedal to make up for it, depending on where this new push rod's gonna end up. But you want this booster rod coming out to be straight, so that's gonna give you an idea where your hold's gonna need to be to move that little peg sticking out of the pedal. And this ratchet only goes to 30 foot-pounds, so I'm not going nuts. I'll probably come back and hand tighten them, make sure they're tight. Just a quick way to get them almost where they need to be. But it does look like this will, well, nope, it won't even come down low enough to get onto this peg here, so we're gonna have to move this peg. All right, looks good. We're gonna go ahead and slide the master cylinder on. While I was filing this down, I put paper towels in here to keep everything out, and I made sure to leave these plugs here so nothing, no metal or anything got into the booster. Slide this master cylinder up. And it seems to fit beautifully. Put these nuts on. Alright, so I've got it all loosely put on there, and I got the lid off. I'm going to tighten these bolts up, and I want to make sure that I don't see any fluid being pumped in, and that that push rod isn't too long and making the brakes be on constantly. So that's why I didn't tighten it up all the way. Just kind of want to keep an eye on it. Doesn't seem to be pumping any fluid in, so I don't think it's too long. I think we got it trimmed right, or I barely filed anything off of it. All right. Go ahead and put that lid back on. And the old nuts fit this also, so you can put that extra one on here to hold this clamp. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and put this cruise control servo back up there. Next, we're going to have to drain the power steering fluid and remove all the lines. All right, so I removed the power steering hose up here on the pump, and now I'm gonna pull the pump out of the way so that I can get to the other end of the hose on the steering gearbox. My fluid looks kind of low, so I'm trying to figure out if and where I have a leak. But there's 2 bolts here that hold the power steering pump in. They're 9/16. Top one's out. Bottom one's out. And this should just lift out with the bracket. Pop the hose, slide the hose off, or belt off first. Maybe this bracket is holding it tight. There's a bolt going through here also. Slide out of the way. There we go. Now I can get to the return hose and the other end of that pressure hose on the gearbox a little easier. All right, so we removed that power steering hose, and that's a 5/8 on that nut there. And it screws in right down there. It wraps underneath of this other line. A new one's gonna come down like this, go under this other hose tube here, and just screw right in. All right, so it's routed like that from the power steering gearbox to the driver's side of the booster. Kind of goes like that. And this is the return line. It's just a rubber hose. I think it's a 3/8, and it's going to either come down here and tee into the return line for the power steering, or I was thinking I could thread in a barb fitting into this reservoir lid here and run it into that. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it yet, but one of those 2 ways is going to work. And then for the other pressure line from the pump to the hydro boost, we're going to make it out of the power steering AN line with the fittings. So we're just going to measure that out and hook it up. All right, so we made our AN hose here. Got it hooked up with our 90s and our adapters, running from the passenger side of the booster to the power steering pump. I haven't decided what I'm doing with the return line yet. I think I'm gonna hook it in through the lid here. But now's the part where we have to remove the old, we gotta mark where we're gonna put we have to mark the pedal where we need to move that, let me show you. We're gonna have to remove this and move it up a little bit higher. And we gotta get into there under the dash and remove this so we can drill a hole here, grind this weld off, move it into the new hole, and weld it back up. Now, the way this pedal is in there is actually kind of cool. It's just got a rod running through it. There's a bracket mounted onto the dash, and it's got some of these clips in here. You're gonna pull the clip out on the driver, the most toward the driver's side, and then the rod's gonna slide out the other way, and then the pedal just comes down. So I'll show you how to do that. And I'm just using a curved pick here. I'm gonna put the rod coming out of the booster, get it straight, hold it there, and I'm gonna scratch markings into it. That way I have an idea where I need to move this to. But you're gonna hold this rod here and mark it. I've already done it, but you're gonna hold it, pull the pedal out where it's gonna end up, which would be, you know, center this in the pedal, and then mark it when the rod is straight. That's where the new pin's gonna move to. So this bracket here has got a rod running through it. If you come around the back there, you can kind of see the clip holding in the rod that holds in the pedal. You just reach up there and I'll pull it down and show you. There we go. Whoop. So there's the clip, and it just goes around the rod. And then you're gonna reach up and push the rod that way. Get it to stick out a little, and then you're gonna reach up. See if I can get you some light. You can kind of see it up there. Hopefully. I'm just gonna grab the rod and slide it out until the pedal falls down, basically. You don't need to pull it all the way out, so the pedal should be ready to come out of there. Nope, not yet. You can see that rod though. Nope, there we go. And the pedal is out. And there are some bushings on this rod, I believe. Let's see, you can kind of see it a little better. I'll slide it back through. But, yep, that's the rod. There's the bushing I was talking about. Just fell out. But that's it for that. Removing the pedal. Alright, so to get this out of here, I ground down the weld this until I can just start to see the outline of where the peg was. It took quite a bit of grinding actually. And then put a socket on this side of the pin, and then I air hammered it out with an air hammer. I got the mark here, kind of how high the new hole is going to be, but I'm going to go into the truck and verify, put the pedal back and mark it with a paint pin where the pedal rod is straight, and then we'll drill another hole this size here, slide this back in through there, through the new hole, weld it in, and then we'll probably get a bolt, or I have an extra pedal in there, I might just use that one, and I'll just I'll have two pegs, or cut the other peg off because it's already welded and holding that hole solid. So I'll probably just use the other pedal, but that's what you do if you only had one pedal. Just stick a bolt in there and weld it in place, fill the hole in, or leave them both in there if nothing's in the way. I don't know if you can keep two pegs out or not, but we'll find out. Alright, so for the return line, I drilled a hole in the lid here for the power steering pump, And then I've got a 1/8 pipe thread to a 5/16 barb fitting here. And I'm going to thread this in. I got some Blue Monster Teflon tape on there. And I'll have links down below to everything that I used. Alright, got it started. So now I'm just going to get a socket, twist it in a little farther. Pretty tight fit. I drilled it with a 21 64th drill, and then I tapped it out with a 1/8 pipe thread tap. Not sure if I said that already. There's not a lot of room in there to get a socket in there to tighten it down because of this handle here, so I'm going to use pliers. Probably try to center it a little more, I guess. Put my brake pedal back in there. I filled in the old hole where the peg was with a 1/2 inch metal rod that you could weld, and I just welded it in, ground it down, welded it in, ground it down, and then drilled a 9/16. I drilled the 9/16 inch hole up above, and I'll put a picture here showing you the measurement and where it is for the peg that sticks out of the pedal that attaches to the hydro boost. Alright, I think that's probably pretty good. Alright, so I'm showing you this out here because there's be better lighting. I'm not crammed under a dash and all that. Might make more sense. This is the vacuum switch that shuts off the cruise control when you push on the brake. This won't work with our new modified pedal because the thing that pushes this down just can't fit in there. So I got some 5/8 heater hose. I'm gonna slide the switch in there. You don't want to block this window off. And then I got some more 5/8 heater hose, and I'm just gonna wrap it around like that just to give it a little bit more thickness here. And then I'm going to hose clamp this around the steering column, and that little plastic piece that used to shut this off, I've moved it down lower on the pedal closer to the steering column, and I'm going to probably end up gluing it on to the pedal. All it has to do is push that in, so I think glue is going to hold just fine. It's on there now, and it feels like it's pretty solid without anything. So, but yeah, so this is going to sit here. It needs to stick out about that much, and I'm going to move it on the steering column where I want it, and hook the hose back up to it. Hopefully that works out. Show it to you once it's all in. All right, hopefully you can see that. Got the switch hose clamped to the steering column. I moved down the plastic piece that shuts it off that was mounted on the pedal and wrapped a zip tie around it. I didn't use any glue, but it was on there pretty tight, just squeezing on there by itself. So I think that's gonna be the solution. Well, anyway, there's the setup. But you just put everything back together the way it came out. Then you got to cap off where your old vacuum booster hose was. I would do it down there, but that part over there, that vacuum manifold's kind of hard to get, so I don't really want to mess with that too much. So I'm probably just going to cap it off right over here, put a little cap on there, or shove something in the pipe, I don't know yet, but just cap it off. And that's it. High five, you did it. If you got any questions, leave them down in the comments.